periodically we've given you the opportunity to learn what's going on at the Addison Early Childhood Collaborative. I'm here with Mary Haley today to give us an update on not only what's happening there, but on their new name. But first she's going to introduce us to a new staff member. So Mary, tell us a little bit about Rosie.
Thanks so much, Dory. I'm really happy to introduce Rosie Galvez. Rosie is the family advocate for Apple. And she started with us in the middle of November at the end of last year. Rosie used to be a member of our Parent and Family Engagement Committee and had worked with us for a few years. And we approached Rosie to ask her if she'd be interested in this position to work with families. And she was interested, so she's been with us for several months and it's working out great.
Well, before we get to know her a little bit, and I'm sure you are very excited to have a little bit of help, you already mentioned Apple. Tell us about the new name and why that came about.
Thanks, I will. So the Addison Early Childhood Collaborative Partners, we're a group of about 30 or 40 different partner organizations. We realized that that name probably didn't make a whole lot of sense to people who weren't in our world. And we wanted to come up with a name that better described the nature of the work that we do, and more importantly, that we could simplify. So we decided to go with Apple. It's actually an acronym for Addison Partners for Play, Learning, and Education. So since we work with families with young children between the ages of birth and 5 or thereabouts, and we connect families to services like preschool or story time at the library or medical services, you know, the whole host of services that families are interested in, we wanted our name to be easy to remember, so hence Apple. Some people connect Apple with education, others with other things, but Apple does connote education to a degree, and that's how we came up with Apple.
Okay. Now, one of the advantages of having Rosie as your right-hand person is Rosie is bilingual, so we're going to give Rosie the opportunity to share some of that information Mary just explained to me with our Spanish-speaking community.
Sure, thank you for having me. I'm going to start translating. It's like lo que estamos tratando de hacer de cambiar el nombre de Apple para que nosotros como comunidad podamos conectarlo más con los servicios que tenemos aquí, todos los recursos que necesitamos en la comunidad. Una de las cosas que también es muy importante para nosotros es de que las familias se sientan a gusto y puedan dirigirse a nosotros a preguntar qué es los recursos que necesitan, ya sea de la escuela, ya sea de comida o de salud, que necesiten algún tipo de recurso. Entonces, es fácil de recordar para yo como mamá. Yo soy de aquí de Addison. Cuando me decían de Addison Early Childhood Collaborative, yo decía, ¿qué es eso? Y ahorita ya que me dicen, ok, Apple, ya lo puedo comunicar, lo conecto un poquito más con algo de que me pueden ayudar de educación o de algún tipo de recurso que necesite como familia.
Thank you, Rosie. Mary, you have mentioned in the past that other areas have collaboratives. Have you seen this shift away from using that term, or is this something that your group came up with on its own? We're not going to call ourselves a collaborative anymore. We're going to come up with something easier to remember or identify with.
There are several other collaboratives in the Chicagoland area that have shorter names with an acronym like that. So the collaborative in Aurora is named SPARK, and SPARK stands for strong, prepared, and ready for kindergarten. Elgin has a name that's comparable to that. So there are several different collaboratives that have done that. A couple have kept with the traditional name, but one of our partners learned about Spark's name and the story behind that and how much sense it made to have a more memorable name that you could, you know, kind of equate with the work that we're doing. So that's where the idea came from.
Would you like to share that as well?
Yeah, it's like lo que ella está tratando de explicar es de cómo decir, al tener un acrónimo es más fácil para nosotros recordarlo a tener todo el nombre de la colaboración. Entonces, una manera fácil de hacerlo, como en diferentes suburbios de que usaron, como en Naperville, Elgin, que tienen el acrónimo para decir lo que es la colaboración. Nosotros tratamos de implementar lo mismo y lo quisimos hacer de una manera que fuera recordado y que se viera como de lo de educación, de lo de servicios. Entonces decidimos de hacer algo divertido, de que Addison Partners for Play. Entonces ahí somos un equipo que pueden aprender con nosotros, jugar y tener los servicios necesarios. Fue algo que lo que quisieron complementar con este nombre.
Thank you. One more question, Mary. Just to be clear, your services have not necessarily changed. This is just a name change, correct?
Yeah, and thanks for clarifying that. It is a name change. We're still the purpose of our work is still to connect our 30 to 40 partners that provide a whole host of services to families with young children. And we're the group that can connect families with all of the different partners that we maintain relationships with all of the time, whether it's partners in Addison or DuPage County.
Sí, lo que solamente fue el cambio de nombre. Lo que tratamos es seguimos con los diferentes partners, las diferentes colaboraciones con los que trabajamos, ya sea la librería, ya sea los de comida. Entonces simplemente fue el cambio de nombre, fue lo único que cambiamos, pero nosotros seguimos colaborando con todo lo demás y todos los servicios que se dan con nuestras diferentes colaboraciones con los que estamos.
Now, you're not working hard enough. Now I'm going to make you answer every question in English and in Spanish. Let's get to know you a little bit, Rosie. How did you come to this position? I guess back up a little bit. How did you become familiar with the collaborative at the time?
Well, it started with my daughter. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old. So when my daughter, I was looking for, because I noticed that she was having some struggle, because we are bilingual, we have we speak Spanish and English, so I noticed that she was struggling a little bit. So I started looking for resources, but that's how I ended up getting to know Mary. And then my daughter started on the district, so she went to pre-K, and from there I started getting more involved because I want the best for my daughter. I want the best for my kids. I want to get more involved. I want to see what's going to be best for them, and see the different resources that I can implement or use at home, like routines. And it was really good to get all the information when they had the different parents conversations with Mary, because I remember at first I was like, I don't know what is this about, but then I started getting more involved, and I was really happy to get all the information, and I hope more parents get involved. I'm really hoping that the parents see how important it's for us to get involved and get the information for our kids, because we're the first, the first teachers. We're the ones that are there, and they're even if we're gonna send them to school, it's not the same as you start from home, implementing everything, then it's gonna go from there. So that's how I started going to the meetings, and from the meetings it led to one thing to another, and now I'm here working, and I'm really happy to have this position, because I know, and I've seen some difference when I approach some of the parents and I started talking to them from as a parent's perspective. It's this is really good for our kids. I'm this is what it can help you. It's not that we're gonna tell you what to do, because you already know what to do. It's just to help you, give you the right tools how to navigate the system too. So.
Well, like I said, now you have to answer that a second time.
Okay. Yo tengo dos hijos, tengo mis hijos, y la manera que comencé y que conocí a Mary fue cuando yo estaba buscando para mi hija de que fuera a la escuela, porque yo veía que tenía un poco de dificultades, hablamos 2 idiomas, entonces yo veía la diferencia. Entonces empecé a buscar esta información. Mi hija entró en el distrito, entró a preescolar. Y de ahí me comencé a relacionar un poquito más y tratar de aprender qué es lo que yo puedo hacer por mi hija, por mi hijo, qué es lo que puedo implementar en casa, qué rutinas. Entonces empecé a ir más a las juntas con las que Mary estaba y daban información. Entonces yo comencé a ver lo importante que es nosotros estar como papás relacionados, tanto en la escuela, sus estudios, en sus rutinas. La diferencia que nosotros vamos a hacer a nuestros hijos es como decir, nosotros somos los primeros maestros para ellos, y es la importancia que debemos de dar a la comunidad, de decirles a los papás de que nosotros no les vamos a decir qué hacer, sino simplemente nosotros como papás ya sabemos qué hacer, simplemente dar las herramientas necesarias que puedan utilizar en casa para que las implementen.
So as family advocate, tell us a little bit about what you do. What is your role within Apple, and how have you worked with families so far since November?
What I do is like I try to reach out to family. I'm working on social media too, like trying to like let them know what events we're gonna have and what resources they're here that they can use. And I also go to story times. I try to, gather with some parents, and sometimes it's just like out of the blue, like we start talking at, the grocery store or at the library, and just let them know that there's different tons of resources, but sometimes it's really hard to know where to start.
Right.
And we are here for that. And unfortunately, a lot of the community, like they don't know where to look. And this is what I'm trying to do, reach to them and let them know we're here, we can give you the resource, we can help you out, and handle it from there. No, we're going back to lo que hago es de que trato lo que estoy haciendo es llegando a la comunidad, tratando de hablar con diferentes padres de familia. Puedo ir a la librería en las clases de Hola o en los eventos principalmente también, de dejarles saber todos los recursos y cómo los podemos ayudar, darles a ellos que se sientan a gusto, que puedan sentirse seguros de que pueden llegar a nosotros y que nosotros le podamos dar toda la información necesaria en su idioma, si ellos se sienten más a gusto en el idioma, porque muchas veces sabemos o hablamos poquito inglés, pero no nos sentimos a gusto de hablarlo o haciendo preguntas. Entonces lo que yo trato de hacer es de que llegar a ellos y decirles, está bien, aquí estoy, puedo ayudarlos, o si ustedes tienen alguna duda, alguna pregunta, siéntanse a gusto de hacerla sin ninguna preocupación.
You mentioned that it's not that the resources aren't available, and I'm not sure which one of you I'm directing this, so feel free to jump in. It's not that the resources aren't there, it's just that sometimes people don't know where to go to look for them, which can feel very overwhelming, especially when you have small children, either because they have a special need or because you've just never been through this before. So what are you doing to try to make that a little simpler? You mentioned social media. Is that something that's making it easier, or is it more because our community is so diverse? Why is it so hard for people to find those resources?
I think one thing, and it's kind of sad to say, it has to be the language barrier. And that's one of the first things that I noticed, like on some of the parents that I have talked to, it's like the language barrier. And I noticed also that social media, it's easier because if I share certain, like let's say, the milestones on your child, like you feel like you're not gonna feel that they're judging you, that you don't know what your child is supposed to be doing. So it's easier just to scroll the screen and see, oh, it's like, it says that, from this time to this time, my son or my daughter has to be doing this it reached to this milestone. So it helps them like to feel like more at ease, I will say, like just to get the information right there and then without, like feeling like, oh, like, I don't know, they're gonna think that I don't know what to do with my child.
Right, or they're personally being criticized.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the things that I have noticed too, that it's easier for them to reach to me, like sometimes text or, like just to send a message. Like instead of like talking more like in person, or sometimes in person it's like easier for them just to like start asking oh, what about this, and you guys have this event, and it leads one thing to another, and it helps them also like to direct them to the right needs that they're looking for. So
and the other big part of that, and you can shorten this, but I'll try to keep it brief. If we think about all of the different types of services that families would tap into when their children are young, whether it's pediatricians or dentists, or if they have a need for preschool or childcare, or if a family wants to get involved with different community organizations like the library. All of those are different organizations and operate separately, and parents don't necessarily know how to figure out the simplest way to work within a fragmented system.
True.
So that's the point of what our group does in general. We work to be like a centralized hub that people can get in touch with, and we can guide them to and connect them with the services that they're looking for based on their specific needs. So you want to give that a roll? Both what you said and what I said?
Sí, lo que estamos tratando de hacer es de que muchas veces es nuestra misma manera. Si venimos de un diferente país, para nosotros es completamente diferente la cultura, diferente la manera de que nos vamos a navegar. Entonces nosotros somos como el centro donde pueden encontrar toda la información necesaria. Necesitan el dentista, necesitan un pediatra, necesitan algo, saber de la escuela, de la librería. Nosotros somos ese pequeño centro donde pueden agarrar toda esa información, todo lo que ellos están buscando. Que es difícil navegarlo, y más si no saben el idioma o si no se sienten a gusto hablando el idioma. Entonces nosotros estamos aquí para apoyar en esa manera.
So what is coming up? What are you working on now? Most people think, oh, it's summer and everyone in education gets a big vacation at this point, and we know that's not necessarily true. So what's coming up with Apple?
That's not true for everybody. One of the cool things that's coming up on June 24th, which is in a few Fridays, from 10 until 11:30, we're working with the Children's Museum of DuPage County and also the Addison Library for the DuPage Children's Museum to do a pop-up at the library. So there will be several activities that the museum is going to bring, and then we have some other gifts that we're going to give to families. So we're encouraging any families that are interested in joining us on Friday the 24th at 10 to come on over to the library.
Sí, el viernes 24 de junio vamos a tener un evento junto a la librería y el DuPage, the Children's DuPage Museum. Vamos a estar de 10 a 11 y media de la mañana. Va a haber estaciones para diferentes estaciones para todos los pequeños. Todas las edades son bienvenidas, no tiene que ser específicamente cierta edad. Vamos a tener también regalos ahí para dar a las familias, entonces les damos, por favor, que si nos pueden acompañar, agradeceríamos que nos estuvieran ahí para que se diviertan un rato y que lleven a sus pequeños a que exploren el Museo de Ciencia.
Mary, Rosie, thank you both for being here. Mary, if someone wants more information about Apple or any of your partner agencies to get those directions, how do they contact you?
The best way to reach us, I'll let Rosie talk about Facebook and her contact information. I can be reached at 630-392-9353. But more importantly, you can reach Rosie through Facebook. Do you want to mention that and your contact info?
Sí, de la manera que también se me pueden contactar a mí es por medio de Facebook, Facebook o Instagram de Addison Partners for Play, and
Learning and Education.
Learning and Education.
We'll just call it Apple.
It's a new name. Me pueden contactar por medio de Instagram también, y si tienen alguna duda, alguna pregunta, también pueden mandarme un mensaje directo. Ese mensaje directo se puede ir a mi WhatsApp, y mi número de teléfono es 773-718-6069.
Well, thank you both, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thank you.
I'm Dori Kragi, and we've been giving you an update on the latest going on at Apple. Thanks.